typically they have that little typically programmed more in those years beyond CIP year. So yeah, I was looking back at previous ones to see kind of the trends, and you can see that like, typically when you do the estimates, we give them an estimate, but that comes from the federal revenue, and there hasn't been an update for that. So I'm assuming that probably next year when we come back with the next year, we'll probably. I know, right? I was going to ask you, do you still need anything from me for that, or was Suzanne's letter? Okay. So my typical. We'll confirm that it's programmed. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, she was just. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I should be able to take care of that before the end of the day. I just wanted to confirm with you. I knew I was going to see you here anyways. Oh, still? Really? Oh, gotcha. Okay. So I can go ahead and put something I don't use. I can based off of the table. Okay. All right. I think tonight we're supposed to go to one of my good friends. He has a girl he's been dating for a while, but he started bringing her now to his friends, So yeah, he's more official. Yeah, so we've been hanging out with him. She's really cool and everything. But tonight we had plans to go and see his daughter's softball game in Santee. He's got her super active in all this softball. 13 now, crazy, yeah, faster now. But yeah, that, and then I think tomorrow night we're supposed to try to have my over like once a month. Hey, to stay with us for a night or two, and tomorrow she lives in Coronado with her boyfriend, but we try to just have her over so she can spend some time with us. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I don't think we have anything going on. Just hanging out and enjoying the nice weather and stuff. So work. What about you? Yeah, we both have ours. At least the weather is nice. You guys are with Mesa, right? Okay, yeah. Last weekend we were 101 degrees on Saturday. Yeah, 101. It wasn't they said like mid-90s, and then it ended up being like 6 degrees. It seems like when it runs too long during the day, it will like kick itself on to avoid like damage to the system. So we've been pulling our portable unit to like our front portion of the house. It's the side of the sun beat there to my office. Yeah, my office area. South facing side of our house where the sun beats. Great for our solar.
I could just tell her to come down.
I know. Yeah, I know. But at least it's been dry. The worst was last.
I'll try to.
When I was messaging you guys about my issues with that, it was like 80%, 60% humidity, and it was still 85 degrees at 7 o'clock at night. It's like, there's no escape. No, the high division. Yeah, we went to North Carolina. I was like, I'm gonna bring this guy here. It was July, and I just remember the thunderstorm would just appear and then disappear. And it was so buggy. Like you would take a shower and you'd go outside and you're instantly sweating. AC everywhere. But we stayed at this went for a wedding. I don't know what they were thinking. The couple they got married on a waterway in July. Everyone was there in like their suits, right? By like right after they said their vows, jackets came off, like changing clothes. Like it was cool outside. It was like half.
Yes, that's
Very consistent, decades after decades, centuries, lifetime after lifetime. And they're not good at keeping the timeline. The timeline always kind of like fluctuates. But they're
Okay, I'm going to knock on the table because I'm missing the gavel today, so y'all better behave because otherwise I'll just have to yell. But anyway, welcome everybody to the Transportation Committee, Friday, March 27th at 1 p.m. I'm going to first turn it over to Francesca to discuss these new toys in front of us.
So in front of you is our new conference unit. This device will replace your iPad and your microphone, combining them both into an integrated system, and improves the audio and visual experience during the meeting. You'll still use your remotes to request to speak and to vote. To speak, once you're recognized, press the red button in the center of the unit and activate your microphone, and then you'll press it again when you're finished. On the top left of the screen, you'll see two tabs. The discussion tab mirrors what's on the room display, and you can double tap to make it full screen and double tap again to return to the menu. The Documents tab contains the agenda and all the attachments, so tap the item left column, tap any item in the left column to view it. Please note the devices do not have internet access, but if you have any questions or run into technical difficulties, we have staff on hand to assist.
Thank you. And just for clarity, Francesca, I believe that for this meeting we will just be waving our hands to speak, not using the remotes. The remotes will be used to vote. Is that correct? Or?
Yes, thank you, my mistake.
Just to be clear. Thank you. With that, can I please have the instructions on how to use the translation services?
Good afternoon, announcement from interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenas tardes, aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom celular, también luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From 4 cultural groups, the Kumaya-Digueño, the Lusweño, the Capueño, and the Covilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced. you. Francesca, can you confirm we have a quorum?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum with the City of San Diego and the County of San Diego absent today.
Great, thanks. We're going to move into the agenda. For informational purposes, I've asked to give 2 minutes to speakers with the except of consent. Consent will be limited to 1 minute in order to be able to get through the agenda that we have today in time. With that, Francesca, let's move into the first public non-agenda comment speaking.
Thank you, Chair. We'll start with allegedly Audra, followed by Mark.
It's interesting, environment and housing and all of these things, and or any kind of transportation or doing anything with the roads. You're actually something where we're expanding the freeways, behaviors, and changing behaviors and de-incentivizing driving. And so finding more options, you're literally taking them away and doing it under the guise of something that is filled with propaganda, because climate change is not, it doesn't exist the way you guys think. And it's very negligent to not look into that and see what's actually really happening with the weather that is forcing all of this stuff to take place. Because if you weren't concerned about the climate like that, but I mean, you're supposed to be like preserving the environment, right? Well, if you were, then you would look into that and saying, well, the things that they're spraying above us is extremely toxic, not only to us, but to the environment. What they're spraying in the sky as well to produce rain is incredibly toxic, not only to us, but the environment. So if the things that you guys are pushing are based off of lies, then you're not really providing those things. And the money that we're giving you guys to do this is literally impeding our ability to have a free and fair life. And I feel like you guys need to...
Followed by the phone number ending in 8813.
Mark, so you've been led to believe that it's because of climate change and you want more electric vehicles and much more public transit, which there's a video, and people need to know this, the title on YouTube, Western nations about their coming destination. And it's basically showing him saying that he's talked to the city of LA, and by 2035, the freeways up there will be parks. Basically, they want all public transportation. And that just sounds great with high-speed rail and stuff, except for one thing. If you want a totalitarian society, there's 3 things you need to do. And technically, we're a corporate oligarchy, which is just as bad in its own way. Totally fascist and totally communist aspects at the top. Controlling all private property, controlling all transportation, which is what you guys are about. And making sure that they don't have good weapons to ever revolt, even though I don't think that's the answer, obviously. Public transportation and don't have any good weapons, what could you do? You could not do anything. What are you going to do? Walk up the metal detector at the rail station, one way you want with your weapon, and they just shut down. AI says they're going to protest and it shuts down the railway.
Expired. Our next
That's where you're
speaker
going.
will be the
Think
person
about
with
it.
the phone number ending in 8813. You can go ahead.
Francesca, this is Consuelo. 8813 is like no other county in our state. I'm here to remind y'all that we don't need with other counties and cities and other parts of the country and state. And at this point, you have to realize that this for the line down of the blueprint of the United Nations Agenda 21. Because in every meeting in our county, every government agency meeting within our county, to shape their behavior, and that's just so obvious. It's amazing that y'all are like catching on yet. So, what else do I have here? I'm also here to remind you that you know, there are so many things that a lot of you people are charged of, you call the shots for, and this is just a side note. If you're drinking diet soda or you brush your teeth with fluoridated toothpaste, you are in no shape to maintain office. Your cognitive and neurological functions and poisoned by things.
Your time has expired. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Antoinette, do we have a
regional planning here. I know many of you are here this morning for the board meeting, so first I want to thank you for the board retreat in Hamul last Friday. I'm going to over the course of the year as well. Wanted to let everybody know that the executive committee approved the recommendation to transition some of the SANDAG working groups that reported into the Regional Planning Committee and the Transportation Committee to technical with their city managers this week. We're doing this quarterly now, and they're advising us on who from your cities, which staff members are the right staff members to participate in those task forces. 3 that are forming right now, one around housing. We'll be talking a lot about SB 79, getting ready for the next RENA cycle. One on emerging technology and transportation trends. And then the other on community engagement for the express lane, so getting input from communities on the Speaking of SB 79, for those following it, the California Department of Housing and Community Development issued guidance last week, so unexpectedly. It was a bit of a surprise. We were planning actually to release the draft map of the TOD locations this week, but after reviewing the guidance, we're holding off on that and considering the best next steps. There's a conflict between the guidance and the bill language itself, the law. We're having our legal team take a look at that. Big topic that we discussed with your city managers as well, and we'll continue to keep you updated on what we think are the best next steps. It is now in print. It is Senate Bill 1087, and as a reminder, we've been working with the other big MPOs across the state on this bill. We hired the bill's author, Steinberg, to help facilitate conversations with stakeholders around the state. It will extend the timeline that we do the sustainable community strategy from every 4 years to every 8 years, so that will free up some resources for us to actually implement and not always be in this cycle of planning. And it will also streamline how we work with the Air Resources Board, who is the regulatory agency over the sustainable community strategy. The goal is really to spend less time on planning and modeling and technical methodology and more time implementing the projects that everybody cares about and wants to see implemented. A couple of capital project updates, 2 related to LoSAN. The California High-Speed Rail Authority will serve as the NEPA lead agency as delegated by the Federal Rail Authority, so that's a big step that we have the NEPA lead in place, and important milestones that we can get the environmental process moving forward faster. And then 11th Street, the site of a newly built drainage channel at 11th Street, and this is for pedestrian safety, so we wanted to flag that for you in case you hear about it. University Avenue that will connect Mid-City and North Park to La Mesa. That the registration is now open for Bike Anywhere Day, and that is going to
any public comment on consent?
Yes, thank you, Chair. If you're a member of the public who'd like to speak on consent online, please raise your hand now. We have 2 people in the room. We'll start with allegedly Audra and then go to Mark.
I have to question your ability to make decisions when you guys can't acknowledge the reality of what's taking place. And so when you're making any kind of transit improvements, I think that you are equipped to make that kind of a decision, especially when we are supporting Scott Wiener, who has sex with children. Let that sink in. He is a pedophile. And we are supporting bills that come forward from this man. So in your is based off of fraud. And again,
thank you. Your time time has expired. Our next speaker will be Mark, followed by Consuelo.
Okay, I realize you guys are constrained to doing Newsom's administration's will, which, by the way, no one voted out, no one knew about. He just dictated it, and you guys just have to do it. In the first place, you shouldn't even accept that. Your constitutional responsibility is to just say, screw that. But aside from that, it is an absolute fact. The World Economic Forum. And what would make any of you think that the global corporate or our personal U.S. interests as citizens at heart in any way, shape, or form, we are the one thing that stands in the way of them and total global domination, which they practically have now because they're selling us everything. And by the way, what I was trying to say before is if you're trying to have a protest and they can just, you can't enter the rail.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So you're on the first item?
Consent.
With I will try to in-depth all for control. Like after consent.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Excuse me. Anybody on the committee? Yes, Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Mayor White. Please vote. Great. Brian introduced.
And Eoni and I, Mark from MTS and Lenny from NCD, are here to talk about the transit fare change study. This was brought to you back in October, just with an update that it was about to start, that MTS had voted in February, I think, of last year to start a study, and NCD quickly jumped on the bandwagon and also asked us to look at their fares as well. And so since Sandex Transportation Committee has ultimate authority on the fare ordinance, we kind of help lead this study. But again, MTS and NCTD have both asked us to look at checking out the fares and looking at ways to help shore up their revenues. Mark and Eoni will be talking a little bit about the reasons for why they did this. Request did come to us with the fiscal cliffs and budget issues that they're having, and then they've both been doing a lot of public outreach, and we'll be talking a lot about the public outreach that they've been doing. But I'll just kind of give a quick update on the outreach or the. I think I skipped a slide. Sorry. Here we go. So the transit fare change study steps, it's a slow process. We did a lot of data collection, got the fare box revenue numbers and ridership numbers from MTS from last year. That helps us inform our model. Our chief economist, Naomi, was able to produce a model that will be able to be on plugging in different packages. So if there's various packages that they like to revenue change they could expect from that. She had a lot of learning on how to do that. There's kind of an industry standard practice on how to do these models. It's a very complicated model. She did a lot of peer review on this to try to understand exactly what consultants have been doing on these models for years and looking back at old studies and research studies to try and do it. But I think she did a fairly good job on that, and we'll be coming back in May and June if there are proposed shipment revenue changes. So we started developing some fare change scenarios. They've had discussions at both of their boards and committees to talk about this over the last 6 months, and are continuing to. Naomi's group did some modeling analysis to help provide them some numbers. And then ultimately their boards would vote to recommend that the Transportation Committee consider updating the transit fare ordinance amendment, and that would come back to us with their recommendations on that. We started back in October and November, and MTS and NTD together at that time. We had one survey out there that folks could do online. Started developing the packages on that. Next month, when they go to their boards, they will have very specific proposals for them to vote on at that time. And then later this summer.
Thank you, committee. So I think it's helpful to extend we have that's scheduled to hit that out a couple more years to buy us some time to find more sustainable sources of revenue at the federal, state, and local levels. But really, this is all about buying us time for a couple more years and extending out this fiscal cliff until 2030. To do that, we need to find about $528 million, and we're looking at 4 different pieces of the pie, so to speak, on how to do that. One of which is transferring non-essential capital, and that's $93 million. $3 million a year that we're looking that we need to find between service levels and fares. And so those are the 2 primary ways that MTS has specific control over the level of fares that we have, and then the levels of service. So what does $23 million mean in terms of fares and service? Well, it represents about 26% of the current fare revenues that we collect. We collect a little over $90 million a year in fare revenue. So overall budget, comes from federal government, state government, local sales tax revenue, and then fares, right? But if you compare that to service levels, you see this $23 million equates to all Saturday bus and trolley service at $8.2 million, all weekend bus service, that equates to $24.2 million, all service on the Blue Line 7 days a week, $22.3 million.
To $23 million, and we do anticipate to experience an operational burden as well. To close this funding gap, NCTD is also exploring a variety of different option purposes, however, so this would truly only be a short-term solution and it wouldn't cover the entire projected deficit. In some cases, similar to MTS, we can use reserves, but again, this is only a short-term solution, as once these reserves run out, we will. We do have various TOD projects underway that we're excited about. However, these lease revenues won't be realized for another couple of years, and what we will get from those will be nominal compared to the entire projected deficit. In transit, under these circumstances, as mentioned, typically what we can do is look at this trade-off, this potential for increasing fares.
Thanks. So with that in mind, and both boards' directions for us to move forward at looking at ways to increase fare revenues for both of them, last fall we of your fares in terms of service. We did a ton of outreach, like I had mentioned before. We had 5,700 responses on the survey. That was pretty massive. We've never had a response that high. Or the chance to actually increase frequencies is really more important than the cost that it is today. We heard in the YOP fares is a huge component, and that's going to stay no matter what. But both for senior pass prices, So during this whole time, and staff's been meeting every 2 weeks together with the 3 of us and our economists to talk about all this. Agencies across the country. San Diego is on the left for our regional pass price. Around the country. Our adult one-way right now is $2.50. The day pass is $6, and the monthly pass is $72. And just to remind folks that fare capping did back in 2020. At that point, folks could, using your Pronto card and adding $5, $10 at a time, you could tap each time and ride for $2.50. The system's smart enough to then track you day after day throughout a month. And if once you hit $72, the system then knows that you've paid the monthly price and caps you at that $72, so you don't pay anymore. The senior disabled Medicare pass is essentially about half of this, or actually $36 right now. Process as well. I don't think we alluded to this before, but that $72, the $2.50 has gone up over the years. It used to be $2.25 and $2, and it went up to $2.50 about 5-6 years ago. The $72 pass, though, has been held steady since I think 2009, 2010. So if you wanted to talk inflation and what that means, that's a whole other conversation. So as part of the spring outreach between the two agencies, we just developed some super high-level packages of what could be. We just wanted to get the feedback from folks at this point. Proposals at this point. I want to gauge your reactions on this. We'll present these to the board ultimately in April when these guys go to their board. That'll be a specific package that will be presented to them at this time. But the current prices are on package. It was kind of just a slight increase, where package B is obviously a bigger jump. One of the things with package B was to try and maintain the SDM, the Senior Disabled Monthly Pass, actually at a lower increase than the package A. So it's a big jump from $72 to $100. Only on price right now. But then obviously package B does have a bigger jump. For their Sprinter Breeze, it's a slight jump up from their $59 a month monthly pass price that they have, and a slight jump from their $19 pass price. We presented to them also during these workshops just kind of what our initial modeling line for both agencies with a about $2.5 million. And again, modeling, it tries to do its best. It's not a perfect model. It's based off of past usages of transit, past fare changes, peers across the nation. But generally, it's a price elasticity kind of a thing. It's looking at demand and what happens with prices. When you increase the price of something, people will probably use it or buy it a little less, but not so much that you'll actually lose revenues. And that generally holds true for transit, unless you maybe tripled the price of transit, right? You probably would have a massive decrease. The expectation of revenue. Anything else, we try and just hold the model steady. It makes it that much harder. Looking at some high-level comparisons between packages in A and B. Package A does have the lower adult fare increases, but higher SDM monthly pass prices. It does have a lower day pass and one-way fare. This does have a much higher revenue increase potential for the agencies. Modest one-way fares, but a slightly lower monthly pass price in comparison. A steeper increase in the adult day passes on the one-ways. And then like annual revenue. Where this is helping to fill those gaps for them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark, who will talk about how we took these packages and brought it out to the public.
Okay, so a few of the goals that we had with the engagement is, we really want actions from the public, see what they thought about this, see if they were just going to walk out of the room on us with these types of, to hear some of their thoughts and concerns over the different pricing that we introduced, and then ultimately what our goal is to help inform a final package that we can bring back to our board of directors for consideration next month. And we did our outreach 3 different levels. So we had in-person workshops. We held 5 of them. We had about 80 participants total throughout our service territory. And I think really having these workshops was very helpful because we could really get into the dialogue about what people thought about on a person-to-person level, and having small be able to tell the story as to our fares. But we also wanted to make sure we cast a wide net with an online survey, and so we had over 800 responses to that. And then we also wanted to go talk to our riders directly, and so we did some tabletopping at our transit centers as well. And over all 3 levels that we were doing public outreach, the responses kept coming back, and they were pretty consistent with what people were telling us. And even after seeing these 2 packages with increases, people still, and that makes sense considering the pass price now is at $72 for an adult monthly. And really the adult monthly is the driver of the vehicle, so to speak, with any type of increase in any kind of fare revenue that we want to get above and beyond what we're collecting now. Really moving the needle on the adult monthly pass is very critical because of so much revenue that we collect. Between the adult categories, it's about 88% of the revenue that we collect. So really moving that adult monthly pass is critical to this process. And there wasn't overwhelming support for eliminating fare capping, as Brian talked about earlier. I think people, particularly people that ride 5, 6, 7 days a week, you know, it really values them because, you know, they are riding most often, and they do mention that. And even if we're able to, you know, get that number below $90 for that adult monthly pass, it still didn't get people to want to move away from fare capping because it is so important to our very frequent riders. Let me now turn it over.
Thank you. So similarly, we are currently in our outreach period to collect public feedback on the proposed scenarios. We started off with some fare change workshops. The first one was on March 18th, and we had another one last night. We also developed an online survey and held pop-ups across our entire service area, including 11 total transit centers, to promote both the survey public might have about the scenarios. We also rode Coaster Sprinter. We made sure that our materials were available in both English and Spanish, and conducted outreach itself as well. Our survey does close on March 31st, and we do have a few days of outreach left, and a few major events planned, so we don't want to get into the results yet. But so far, we have found that most survey respondents thus far do seem favorable to some level of fare increase to maintain service levels. Upon survey closure on March 31st, we will conduct a full analysis on the data and provide an update to our board in April, and really dive deep into the data on how the public feels about the various scenarios.
Perfect. And so, like I said, they're receive an item, possibly vote on a recommended vote or set of changes that we'd come back to Transportation Committee with. When we come back to Transportation Committee in May, if this all works out right, we would bring then the full outreach results from both series of outreaches. We have the package of proposed changes, the fare ordinance itself, which is like a 40-page ordinance. That's what you'll ultimately be voting on. We'd have a red-lined document of that you could have a look at to see specifically what's. We hand it back to you for discussion. But I just wanted to give you a preview of the two discussion slides that we would, hope you provide feedback to us. But one is to provide some feedback, from your own constituents. Is there anything else that we should be considering before they go back to their boards next month? I just talked about that a little bit last week. Just some things that we can help consider, that this committee can help consider, and then forward on to the board for their consideration as they begin these discussions over the next 6 to 12 months. So with that, Chair, I'll hand it to you.
Great, thank you. Nice presentation. Francesca, do we have public commenters on this item?
Thank you, Chair, we do. We'll start with allegedly Audra and then go to Mark.
Sounds like a lose-lose situation. Either you guys pay more or you're going to lose some services. Sounds about right. And the government, anytime you guys need money for us to make up for negligence, is so sad, because how is this even going to sustain? Like, you want everybody to take public transit. How the hell is that going to happen if you can't even? You do what you're going to raise the fares. You still enough, or it's going to be spent here or there, and you're still going to find more need for more and more money just to sustain the entity. But it's like, I mean, thinking ahead, is that ever going to be possible? I mean, we have buses that people, and yet we just buy. This cost is just going to continue to go up. It's going to continue to go up year after year until it's like driving, and people can't even afford to take public transit. And it's just sad, because it's like, you guys don't even have bathrooms to do all this stuff, but it's like New York or other places, like, you want to take public transit. You don't want to drive. It's easier. You can get anywhere in a very quick manner. And here it's like, it'll take you all day if you just want to go somewhere. So maybe we start thinking about like actually making it a productive.
Mark, followed by Consuelo, and Consuelo will be our final speaker on this item.
Okay, so you guys aren't recognizing some things. Preserving discounts. Well, that's because the seniors, because the Federal Reserve is causing inflation, they simply, they paid into the system. They should have enough to live, but they don't because of inflation. And that's intentional. People out there need to see these YouTube video, Zeitgeist Addendum, this is the title, Zeitgeist Addendum, full free documentary, Social Pathology, Peter Joseph. See it from 6 minutes, 40 seconds to 25 minutes. So instead of telling Newsom's administration that they're asking you to solve a problem that's unsolved with this corrupt system. It's just absurd. The lower half of the population is completely in poverty. So what's going to happen, of course, though, is that more and more people are going to be forced against their will to take your bus systems and rail or whatever. And I wouldn't be, I was excited about high-speed rail when I first heard about it. It's not that it couldn't have been a good thing. Unfortunately, I've heard that there are videos about why it's not sustainable and it doesn't really work well. You have to replace a lot of the parts regularly. It costs too much to make. It costs more. And to just use oil. So it's a lose-lose in a lot of ways. You're doing what the EU's already done. And the people who are so not go back to accepting them into that exact thing. So I'm not against some high-speed rail or any of this, but you're going to where it's going to be all that. And you should see that. And your children are going to have to live in the totalitarian corporate oligarchy.
You can go ahead.
Mark and Audra for being there. Total voices of reason, and it's sad that, you know, the majority of our county are not listening in on what, you know, agencies like Sandag have plans for them to eventually be forced to take. Anyways, but yeah, so no option. It's going to be the people eventually paying for it, and again, this is just, it's all for the safety, it's all for sustainability, it's all for rent, and yeah, people are scared. They don't want to, you know, they'd rather just live on their knees and continue to be, you know, bend over and take it by Big Daddy government without lube. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And I came back up. If there are any general questions as well from the committee members, Councilman Moreno.
I apologize. I forgot that we have this little guy that.
No, we don't. So
we don't.
Just wave at me. You know,
Okay,
and eventually I'll see you.
Well, thank you for the presentation and also the updates on the proposed fare changes. I am sitting before you as an MTS. The fare change study for MTS, specifically as in my role as a board member. Conversation at the board has focused on expensive cities. One of the things that we have low-income individuals who have to pay more on the front end is it's a little more difficult, right, than having to, you know, topic something that we need to continue. As the previous chair of the equity working group, and to put it on the record, keeping consistent with our youth opportunity pass opportunities that we have here in the region of San Diego is very, very, very important to most folks on the board. If you don't mind going back to the slide that shows the comparison of the different transportation agencies, and I do want to point one thing out. some of those agencies that were, and let me ask the question beside him.
Yes, they are. So we chose agencies that are peer agencies where they have similar ridership. They have both light rail and
we're dealing with, right, in the Review County, Tijuana.
yeah,
Yeah.
give or take, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
And we didn't include LA. I think I heard a public commenter. I mean,
Those big transit agencies, federal government. So I think it would be interesting to see, you know, what the subsidy is. There's just, I mean, the Northeast is just subsidized left and right. So the other thing that I wanted, so thank you for that clarification, because I saw that and the only city. Thank you for enlightening me that. The other thing that I wanted to point out is at our SANDAC board retreat, and I tried funding and prioritize transit agencies, if I heard Mario say that correctly, which I was sitting in the capacity as the MTS commissioner, so it hurt my ears up. I would like to see how fast we can, if it's even a possibility. I'm wishful thinking here, but I can assure you that the more people we get off of these trolleys and buses and onto their cars on a road is going to be so much more expensive for the region and for pill to swallow, especially considering at MTS I represent the southernmost part of the region, I guess, or the MTS's map, or a large percentage of the folks that utilize the trolley are coming in from many of those folks get into their go on the phase 2 about how much one part of it. So I think you guys are doing a great job having, and I think we shared it as well on social media to have folks do their survey. But overall, thank you for the presentation, and I guess my comment right now would be for SANDAC to quickly look at how fast we could move major corridor capital project funds to subsidize. I think you pointed out it was 24 million per year. Was that the number on the slide that I saw?
Yes.
We're just talking about fares here.
So for major corridors, the revenue coming in FY27 is $45 million that's going towards projects, and then there's an additional amount of $181 million that's going to debt service.
God, I'm glad you're here. Mark, sorry, Mr. Olson, you pointed out that there's when you go to the slides that you provided with the little money signs, I believe it was.
Yes, it's a little bit of a moving target, but we're targeting about $23 million a year that we have defined for fare over the next 4
million a year. That, you know, and the board, and I know that would, you know, blessing us all right now, but that will be my comment. There is a way, I don't want to say there is a way out of it, because I do recognize that everything is changing. I was the budget chair for MTS. I know that we want to pay our staff more because we want to keep our staff. There also has been, I mean, you name it, right after COVID, we saw inflation go up 7%. Iran is not helping us. Our federal government is not helping us. But I think there.
I don't know if you want to talk about
I think that there's probably a lot of conversations that are going to be happening over the coming months around Transnet. It's actually really complicated. A lot of the money, specific corridor projects. So I think this committee and the board is going to need to have a lot of conversations and get a lot of information on what the implications are for moving money from one of the boxes that isn't locked to another box that isn't.
I don't know. Is there a sense of urgency with the board at MTS approving the fare revenue? Are we like, you know, can we wait a few months to see what SANDAC comes back to us? And I recognize we can't use all 46 million as was mentioned, but 13, a commitment of 13 for 4 years. cost at the end of the day. So I will stop talking. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. First it's Councilmember Fleming, and then I'll go to Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. I guess for the record, I'm an alternate on MTS and was actually at the presentation as part of this, staring at, and many other they're looking at as well. I personally, I support the idea of increasing the fares to help to offset some of this. My bigger concern is really around the fiscal cliff and how MTS and other agencies are approaching this. And I guess my concern is I keep hearing, we've got enough reserves. We think we can hold out till 2028, 2030, which to me certainly sounds like we're looking for some major change with the next, I'm assuming, presidential election cycle. We don't know what that's going to bring. We don't know who would be voted into office or what will happen. I also feel like we're living in a state that has a very large deficit and a lot of spending that keeps going and going and going, and hoping and crossing our fingers that the state support more grants for our agencies. I'm also concerned that we might be. And so my I guess question and slash feedback is more surrounding a feeling of that these agencies are going to have to take belt tightening more seriously, and I get really concerned when I see the amount of reserves that we're planning on dipping into and continuing to eat away at these reserves. And then we get to a point to where we hit 2028, we hit 2030, wherever the, and if turned around from the federal government, from the state of California, to the level that would turn around and sustain the agencies, then what kind of a problem on the road is what I'm and hearing continue. That's my feedback, and if you have any response to that, I'd certainly be open to hearing it.
At the state level. Some of the state funding that we receive and the way it's allocated is decades and decades old. So there are some conversations being had at the state level to see what we can do to modernize these funding streams. And so there are some conversations happening at that.
I will first address the I'd like to first address the comment about let's take money from here to fund this. We're doing things differently since Mario's. I really like his ideas about not parking so much money on major projects and trying to do those major projects. We are able to move forward because those dollars were found. As we do these, be able to continue to move forward on the and actually finally close that project, that HOV, originally HOV through I-5, and now being transitioning towards managed lanes. So I would be opposed to trying to move things from projects because these are really, really critical projects. We don't have a lot of transit in North County, so we're actually very reliant on on these projects in North County. The other thing, as to what is being presented, I wondered because when I was a student for several years, as college and then law school and all, in between taking classes, I lived in cities where I didn't need a car. I definitely relied on public transportation, and there was always a student pass, which was something like $30 a month or something, and I so appreciate consideration at all.
I think on a regional level, the transit ordinance has been very supportive of MTS. 10 years ago, started a UPass with the University of California, San Diego, where every student pays, and it's like 70 some discounted pass, and not all of them take advantage of it, obviously, but it's enough discounted pass, and not all of them take advantage of it, obviously, but it's enough revenue for MTS and NCTD because they can ride down Coaster as well to do that. All of the universities, I think, they have pass arrangements with them where they get a very heavily. Those students who do want to buy the pass.
Okay.
And they've been speaking to SDSU as actually pass.
Okay.
And they've been speaking to SDSU as actually about possibly doing the UPass thing where you need, it's a high threshold to get the students to go to tax-based commitment, so tax-based commitment themselves to do that kind of UPass. But they do have very high themselves to do that kind of UPass. But they do have very high in terms of.
Right, so I lived in and or visited Providence. Thanks. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. Yeah, go ahead, Sean. Yeah, just wanted to say I really appreciate that comment. We recently wanted them to have access to the colleges to provide some type of a regional college piece. And really beyond that, we worked with the workforce centers to provide some type of a pass to workforce, like somebody's trying to get their GED or they're going to a trade school. So that I would agree that I think that's something agency-wide we're looking at locally because we have several community colleges that are very close to our service grid, really from Miramar up to Palomar and Miracosta. So I think we've really got regional universities and community colleges to take a look at that. Thanks, Sean. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Mendoza.
So coming into this, I too favored increases in one-way and day pass. The respondents to the survey. The reason is, in my mind, day passes are used more by maybe tourists or people who are going to the Padre game or a concert. Whereas the monthly pass is probably used by people who have to go use public transit to get to work on a regular basis, and I'd rather not hit them as hard. But then I heard you say that 88%. So but I would definitely support a phase. I like package A better than package. Not on the one-way or the day pass, but on the definitely on the monthly pass. We don't want to hit working people all at one time. Those are just my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Joyce.
Thank you. I just was going to kind of bring forward, our conversations at NCTD. A lot have been around protecting families so they're able to plan as these changes are anticipated taking place. And so the phased-in approaches are definitely important, considering, so many folks use this to get their kids to school every day across our region. The Youth Opportunity Pass, again, just any chance I could say, yes, please, don't even look at it. I will. And then just that we use this as an opportunity to simplify. I think one automated, fair system. And so any chance that we can use change things generally for the better is really good. So thank you for this conversation.
Great, thanks. Anybody else? I was looking at this, an interesting chart in there from MTS about what it looks like and where monies are coming from as the fiscal cliff approaches. The thing, I didn't see something comparable to NCTD, but the thing that was sort of unclear to me is under either of these proposals, how the picture actually changes with those proposals. And I don't know if that's in there somewhere, what the revenue sources look like, and what, if we actually have the ability to show that if we do A versus B versus nothing, nothing is what was shown to us, but I don't know if we've seen, if we have available how that changes, in particular like with NCTD, if you do A or B, are you still facing a fiscal cliff in 28, or does it push it out? I can't quite grok that from the information shared so far.
I don't want to speak on behalf of MTS, but I would say that the fair change does not solve the fiscal cliff.
Right.
I think what that means for each respective agency is a little bit different just based on the modes that we run and the budget sizing. For us, it still doesn't solve some of our capital issues, and I think to what was mentioned earlier, with the state to sort of redirect these projects and sort of focus that bank of money in the current to try to solve a different funding source through some type of other alternative taxes out there. So it doesn't necessarily solve. What it really does is address the inflationary cost of operations between the agencies, and